Incredible CEO exposes humiliation of his mother by billionaire family, cancels $900 million deal. Jake Thompson stood at the front of the boardroom, heart racing, the weight of the moment palpable. This was the deal that could catapult his company to the forefront of innovation and secure years of financial stability for countless employees. But just as the excitement simmered, he stumbled upon a series of dusty memos tucked away like buried secrets that would change everything. Each scribbled note dripped with disdain, recounting how the patriarch of the billionaire family had ridiculed his mother, Lisa, mockingly recalling her grueling shifts as a waitress, the exhaustion etched into her very bones. Jake's throat tightened at the thought, a cold reminder of the countless nights she came home spent, her smile a bittersweet mask hiding the weight of worries. Those memories ignited a fire in him, memories of a small community rallying behind them, sharing meals and ensuring they didn't go hungry. His dedication to his mother and her sacrifices surged like irrefutable evidence into his heart, pulling at the very fabric of his being. As the city buzzed with excitement over his impending deal, a storm brewed inside him. Canceling the agreement could mean devastating consequences for his company and the lives depending on it. But could he really seal a deal with people who had publicly belittled the woman who had given him everything? He could almost hear his mother's voice, a gentle yet firm whisper urging him to stand by his values, telling him that true success isn't just financial. The opportunity loomed tall, the figures stacked sky-high while the city pulsed with anticipation. Each time Jake shut his eyes, images of his mother flickered through his mind, her tired hands working late at the diner, her laughter mingling with pleasantries from kind patrons, and the warmth of neighbors helping each other rise. "You stand by your values, Jake. You fight for what's right," she would say. The choice was heavy, like a weight on his chest. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Finally, the moment of truth arrived. Jake stepped onto the stage, the media buzzing like a hive around him. He stood straight, wrestling with emotions as he scanned the audience, half supported him, half questioned him. The air was thick with tension. He knew what he had to do. Raising his voice, he declared, "I am canceling the $900 million deal." Gasps filled the room, shock spreading through the crowd like wildfire. In that split second, his heart pounded, yet a strange calm settled in, fueled by the memories of his mother, the warrior who taught him about honor and dignity. But as whispers of his stand echoed through his community, Jake was left staring into an uncertain future. Would he manage to spark change? Or would his courageous move lead to sacrifices that rippled through his life and those he loved? The questions lingered in the air, echoing long after he stepped off the stage, uncertain of the path ahead. Jake walked out of the boardroom, every step feeling heavier than the last. The shock of his decision hung in the air like a dark cloud hovering above. He could still hear the gasps echoing behind him, mixed responses of disbelief and awe. The cameras flashed like lightning, capturing the moment for a world eager for a story. But what good was a story if it left his mother and the community exposed to danger? He slid his phone from his pocket, his fingers shaking as he opened social media. In the world outside, reactions were pouring in. The headlines screamed, and with each notification, his heart raced. While some applauded his courage, others condemned him, branding him a fool. There was a pricking fear at the back of his mind. What if his decision wouldn't just threaten his company, but also endanger the very community that had lifted them through hard times? As he made his way through the street, the chatter around him faded into a dull hum. He needed to find his mother. No one understood her strength like he did. She would know what to say. He reached home and found her in the kitchen, rolling dough for their favorite pie. The familiar scent filled the air, wrapping him in the warmth of childhood memories. "Jake?" She looked up, her expression morphing from joy to concern. What happened? He sank onto a stool, uncertain of where to begin. I cancelled the deal. The one with the Harringtons, he said, voice barely a whisper. Her hands paused, and the rolling pin rested on the counter. He met her gaze, steeling himself for her reaction but finding nothing but warmth. Tell me why, she prompted softly, knowing him better than anyone else, sensing the storm inside. I couldn't go through with it, Mom. They made fun of you. The words tumbled out, heavy with emotion. I couldn't support people who treat others that way. You taught me to stand up for what's right. Lisa stepped closer, her eyes glistening with pride. You've always been a fighter, Jake. But you know this isn't just about you. This affects everyone who relies on your company. You could have changed lives. He nodded, feeling the weight of her truth. But at what cost? Selling out my values? I couldn't look myself in the mirror. They stood in silence, the kitchen filled with the rolling fog of confusion and anticipation. Lisa finally broke the stillness, her voice gentle but firm. You did what you thought was right. Now we have to figure out how to move forward, together. The community will need you more than ever. A wave of gratitude washed over Jake. She was right, as always. But as he wrestled with the uncertainty of what lay ahead, a knock on the door echoed through the house, interrupting their moment. Who could that be? Lisa asked, her brows furrowing as she wiped her hands on her apron. Jake went to the door, nerves knotting in his stomach. He opened it to reveal a group of familiar faces, friends and neighbors from the community, gathered like warriors at his doorstep. They carried boxes of food and homemade desserts, their smiles beaconing hope amidst chaos. Jake, we heard what you did. Just wanted to say we stand by you, one of his old friends said, stepping forward with a determined look. Then came the unexpected, a voice, loud and clear, filtering through the group. We know what you did was hard, but now we're going to help each other. Are you with us? Just like that, the weight on Jake's chest began to lift, replaced by a flickering flame of hope. As the faces of support surrounded him, he realized they were all in this fight together, but as he stood there, uncertainty still lurked in the back of his mind. What would the billionaires do next? What lengths would they go to reclaim their tarnished reputation? Jake felt the edge of fear dance in his heart, knowing this was just the beginning of more challenges to come. Would their community manage to forge a path against the powerful, or would they crumble under the pressure? His gaze met the determined eyes of his friends, and for the first time since his bold move, he felt a swell of courage. They would face whatever came next together. And just as he gathered the strength to respond, a chilling news alert flashed on his phone. Billionaires respond to the CEO's shocking decision. Jake took a breath, bracing himself for the storm that was about to hit. Jake's heart thudded like a drum in his chest as he read the headline. The words twisted in his stomach, each syllable heavy with the weight of reality. The media frenzy had begun, and he was right in the eye of it. Jake, what's wrong? Lisa's voice broke through his thoughts. He glanced up at her, uncertainty painting his expression. The smiles outside had faded, replaced with frowns and hushed whispers, and now he felt their anticipation weighing on him. They're already reacting. I didn't think it would happen so fast, he muttered, showing her the screen. She leaned in, breathing in sharply at the headlines. This is just their way of trying to intimidate you, she said, her voice steady but her hands creeping nervously to her sides. You know how they are. They'll try to paint you as the villain. Mom, what if they succeed? They have resources, influence, and I'm just one guy trying to do the right thing. His voice cracked slightly, betraying the vulnerability he felt. Then we stand firm, Lisa said with renewed conviction. You've done something brave. If they come after us, they'll have to face the strength of this community. She glanced at the gathering crowd outside, their cheerful chatter now replaced with murmurs of solidarity and concern. Jake nodded, but deep down he could feel the ice of doubt creeping in. Just as he was about to speak, his phone buzzed again, an incoming notification alerting him to something significant. The buzzing felt like a warning bell. He swiped it to read, "Harringtons threaten legal action against CEO for defamation. Our local businesses next." The news twisted like a knife in his gut. Legal action? It was one thing to damage his reputation, but out of pure retaliatory spite? Would they go after the small businesses that depended on his company? A knot formed in his throat. What if they hurt our people, Mom? What if this fight spreads like wildfire? Lisa placed a firm hand on his shoulder, grounding him. Then we prepare. We talk to everyone. Make sure they know what's at stake. You're not alone in this fight, Jake. With her words, a flicker of resolve ignited in him. It was true. The community had always rallied together, lifting each other up in times of need. It was time to remind everyone what this fight was truly about: dignity, respect, and unity. He stepped back outside, where anxious faces awaited him. Everyone. He called out, heart pounding as he met their quizzical glances. I need your help. The Harringtons want to just attack me. They might come for our businesses, our homes. Gasps spread through the crowd, but he held up a hand to quiet them. This isn't just my fight anymore. We need to be strong. Like my mom said, if they think they can intimidate us, they're wrong. We stand together. The applause that followed sent a rush of adrenaline through him, a powerful wave of solidarity. Among the nods and shouts of agreement, Jake felt the energy shift. These were his people, and they believed in him even when he faltered. He took a deep breath, his mind racing with the possibilities ahead. Let us meet tomorrow to discuss our next steps, what we can do as a community. As the crowd dispersed, a lingering tension hung in the air, but it felt lighter now, almost tangible with the strength of togetherness. Suddenly, another alert flashed on his phone. He glanced down, and his heart dropped. Harrington's released destructive video statement: CEO's motives exposed. Fear washed over him, but he gritted his teeth. What's their next move? He whispered, knowing that whatever it was, they had to stay one step ahead. Was he ready for the fight of his life? Would they be strong enough to withstand the storm? The answers loomed ahead like dark clouds, and Jake could only hope that the light would shine through. Jake felt his stomach drop as he read the headline on his phone. The weight of those words became almost unbearable, as though they had transformed into boulders lying heavy on his chest. He couldn't shake the image of his mother's face, the pain of humiliation scrawled across it, while he wrestled with anxiety over the future. Jake? Lisa's concern pierced through the fog in his mind once again. What are you thinking? With a shaky breath, he faced her. This could destroy us, Mom. They'll twist everything to make us look bad. And now, look, they're using my mother to gain traction. They are trying to provoke you, trying to distract you from what matters, Lisa urged. Her voice was calm, steady. You have to keep your focus on the community, on us. Don't let them divide and conquer. Jake nodded but could already hear his heart racing again. The implications of this video statement were daunting. It wasn't just a smear against him, it was a weapon aimed at anyone who dared support him. It felt like standing in front of a gigantic tidal wave while he waited for it to crash down. His mind raced. How do we fight back? He murmured, a mix of desperation and determination brewing inside him. They have the media, they have the money. He paused, caught in the reality of their threats. Lisa stepped closer, eyes fierce. But look at what we have. Look out there. She gently gestured towards the door where their neighbors gathered and whispered. They're here for you, for all of us. If we unite, that's our best strategy. Jake looked again at the faces outside. The hesitation he felt started to dissipate as he recognized the hope glimmering in their eyes. These weren't just bystanders, they were friends, family, real people whose livelihoods were intertwined with his own. We need to share this video. Make it public, Jake said suddenly, his voice rising with clarity. We can't wait for them to control the narrative. We need to be transparent. Then let us call a meeting. Tonight, Lisa urged. She filled with vigor, her spirit igniting his own. We'll gather everyone and share what's happening. He felt the tide of determination wash over him. With action, he could break the paralysis the Harringtons had cast over him and his community. This was their chance to reclaim the narrative, control the message about both him and the businesses at risk. Let us do it, he said, with a grit he could feel solidifying. I'll post an update about the meeting on social media. They need to know we're not backing down. Hours passed in a whirl of phone calls and texts, confirming attendance and spreading the word. By the time the evening settled in, Jake stood in front of a room filled with supportive faces, his heart racing but steeled with purpose. Thank you all for coming, he began, glancing around to see a mix of worry and determination mirrored on faces he knew. We're facing a storm, but we're not shrinking back. We have truth on our side, and we have each other. Let us make our voices heard, together. Then, as he went on to convey the details of their plan, a low murmur made its way through the crowd, catching his attention. A neighbor raised a hand, a look of uncertainty on his face. But what if they come after us? What if they try to intimidate our businesses next? Jake felt that familiar knot in his stomach. The shadows of doubt nipped at the edges of his resolve again. Could they really stand together against such a powerful family? But he took a deep breath, reminding himself of why they had united in the first place. Then we face them together, he asserted. This is our home, our community. We'll fight back. As he finished speaking, the energy in the room shifted, their fears giving way to a collective determination. Here, surrounded by friends and family, he could almost see the embers of a fire kindling. It was terrifying, but it was also thrilling. But then, as the voices of his community began to rise, Jake's phone buzzed in his pocket. He hesitated before pulling it out, dread tightening around him. The notification read, Billionaire family responds to outcry, secrets into the Harrington business practices exposed. Jake exchanged nervous glances with Lisa. Could they withstand the fallout? Would this next turn push them closer to their goal, or would it send them tumbling into chaos? There was no time to waste, he felt it deep in his bones. Here we go, he whispered, steeling himself for what lay ahead. What did the Harringtons know that could turn the tide? Jake's heart raced as he read the headline again. The words blurred together, but the crux of it hit him like a punch to the gut. Public humiliation, a cancelled deal worth more than he could ever fathom, and the Harrington family standing at the center of it. It was everything they feared rolled into one explosive story. Around him, the crowd of supporters felt the tension thicken. Whispers rippled through the room, faces shifting from courage to dread in an instant. Jake could see apprehension settling like a blanket over their resolve, and he had to act quickly to reignite the fire. We can't let this sit. He called out, voice steady but commanding. They think they can scare us into silence. They want us to crumble under the weight of their influence. He closed his eyes for a moment, drawing courage from the faces around him. But that is exactly the opposite of what they get. We will stand tall, together. A soft voice piped up from the back. It was Mrs. Henderson, the elderly woman who owned the local bakery. But what if they retaliate? You know they have power, Jake. We're just us. Encouragement echoed in the crowd as every eye turned back to him. This is our moment to expose the truth. He shouted, letting his emotions surge through his words. If we do nothing, we will let them dictate our future. We're not just fighting for ourselves, we're fighting for every small business that's ever been pushed around by the Harringtons or anyone who thinks they're untouchable. We can show them the strength of our community. Lisa stepped forward, her conviction radiating through her. Jake's right. We turn the spotlight back on them. We need to reach out to the press, social media, anyone who will listen. Let us flood the airwaves with our voices. A murmur of agreement rose from the crowd. Jake felt that knot of anxiety loosening just a bit. Momentum started to build again. Jake raised his phone, projecting the story posted online. Look at this. This is a chance for us to tell our side, to let everyone know we're not afraid. When the Harringtons think of their power, let them know it's not a monopoly, it's our shared community spirit. Let us make that loud and clear. Suddenly, a young man in the back shouted, "We need to share our stories. People need to hear how the Harringtons' decisions affect our lives. If we turn the narrative into a community's fight against an oppressor, they can't silence us." Exactly. Jake replied, excitement coursing through him as he felt the room's energy ignite. We will create a platform for all of us to share what we've been through. We'll push back with stories, facts, everything. A plan started to form, the voices ramping up as ideas bounced off the walls. The energy shifted from fear to intensity, a palpable sense of purpose pulling everyone together. Jake felt the warmth of camaraderie igniting in the air, a fire blazing within them, refusing to dim, but even in that moment of hope, a worry loomed over Jake. How far would the Harringtons go to preserve their image? He clenched his fists, the stakes felt impossibly high. They had a plan, but the reality of the battle ahead was daunting. As they moved forward with their strategy, his phone buzzed again, pulling his attention to another notification. The worry inside him tightened once more as he read, "Billionaires rioting over exposure, watch as more details emerge." The fight was intensifying, and with it, the urgency thickened. Would they really be ready for whatever came next? Could they protect each other when the Harringtons inevitably retaliated? Bracing himself, Jake looked out over the room, the anticipation casting shadows and light across the faces that now held both fear and hope. "We're just getting started," he vowed, a fierce determination blazing in his chest. "Now, we must prepare for the fight of our lives." But with every surge of hope came doubt. What would be the cost of their resistance? Would they emerge unscathed, or would the Harringtons erupt with a vengeance they couldn't foresee? Only time would tell as they stood on the precipice of their impending confrontation. The energy in the room was electric, but it was laced with an undercurrent of palpable fear. Jake could see it in the way people exchanged glances, a silent acknowledgement of the threat they faced. He took a deep breath and forced himself to focus. "All right," he began, pacing slightly to gather his thoughts. "Let us outline our strategy. We'll start with social media. Everyone here has a story, a voice, and we need to amplify that. The Harringtons think they can control the narrative, but we want to let that happen." People nodded, the tension shifting slightly as they seemed to draw strength from his resolve. Lisa spoke up, her eyes bright with determination. "I can set up a social media campaign. We can use hashtags, share videos, create a community page. People need to see the faces behind the businesses they love. The more personal we make it, the harder it will be for them to dismiss us." "That's a great idea," Jake replied, his encouragement fueling a wave of enthusiasm. "And we should reach out to the local press as well. We need them on our side, telling our stories in a way that really resonates. We'll need to prepare personal testimonies how the Harringtons' decisions affect our lives and livelihoods. Every single one counts." As ideas flowed, Jake felt a spark of hope. They were ready to fight back, to reclaim what was theirs. But he couldn't shake that nagging worry in the back of his mind. What if the Harringtons retaliated? He silenced his doubts, reminding himself that they were a community. Each person in that room was a piece of a larger puzzle, and together, they were a force to be reckoned with. Suddenly, a shout from the back snapped him from his thoughts. "What if we have a rally? Get people together to show our strength?" "Exactly," he said, excitement bubbling up within him. "A rally can generate buzz and bring attention to our cause. If we can get local businesses to sponsor it, we'll draw even more people in. We'll show them the power of unity." The crowd erupted with a cheer. Ideas began to tumble out, each one building off the last: flyers, speakers, food trucks, and even music. Jake felt the heat of determination rise. They were moving closer to something real, something powerful, yet, amid the growing excitement, he felt a sinking sensation as thoughts of retaliation crashed into his mind again. Over the next few days, as their plans solidified, he wondered if they'd be prepared for anything the Harringtons might throw their way. Hours passed, and as the crowd dispersed, Jake lingered, staring at the empty seats and the remnants of their fervor: a half-full coffee cup, scraps of paper, and determined whispers. He felt a mix of pride and apprehension settle in his chest. "Jake?" Lisa's voice broke through his reverie. "You okay?" He forced a smile. "Just thinking. We have a long road ahead of us." Before she could respond, Jake's phone vibrated violently in his pocket. The screen lit up with another notification that sent dread through him. Exclusive: Harringtons launch counterattack, rumors of legal action surface. His heart raced as the implications sank in. They were gearing up for a fight, and it wouldn't be pretty. They had to be ready for anything. "We need to stay sharp," he said, partly to comfort himself as much as to reassure her. "No matter what comes, we have to stand together." As he left the room, the weight of responsibility pressed heavily on his shoulders. He looked back, knowing that their battle was just beginning. What kind of retaliation would they face? If the Harringtons had a plan, what were the lengths they might go to protect their empire? With each question, the urgency heightened. Jake was determined to find answers before it was too late. The next morning, the sun peeked timidly through Jake's window, casting streaks of gold across his room. Yet warmth was a fleeting thought. Underneath the covers, he felt the weight of anxiety pressing him down. He needed to move, to breathe, to do something, anything to reclaim the momentum they'd built. He grabbed his phone, scrolling through the endless notifications. The news rattled louder than a ringing bell. Every headline seemed to scream of the Harringtons' ruthless moves, their legal tactics surfacing like sharks circling prey. His gut twisted as he read a tweet that had gone viral: "Harringtons don't just buy businesses, they destroy lives. Fight back." Jake felt a fire igniting within him. He needed a catalyst, a way to shift the narrative, to turn fear into action. He texted Lisa, his fingers racing, "Can we meet? I have some ideas to discuss." Within minutes, she replied, "On my way." The smell of coffee filled the air as Jake paced the small cafe where they decided to meet. He could barely focus on the menu, his mind was locked onto one thought: they had to push back hard. Lisa burst into the cafe, her face flushed with excitement. "I've been thinking, what if we reach out to influencers? People with a voice to amplify ours? The more we get involved, the harder it'll be for the Harringtons to silence us." "Yes. That's perfect." Jake responded, a grin breaking across his face. "We can curate stories and build a campaign that resonates. We need to show how connected we really are. It's not just about business, it's about our lives, our homes." Ideas began to flow like a dam bursting. They brainstormed names for the campaign: Voices for Change, Stand United. The words felt stronger when they said them out loud, filling the cafe with an essence of hope. As the day wore on, they mapped out a plan. They would not just react, they would take initiative. They split tasks: Lisa would contact local influencers, while Jake would focus on gathering personal testimonies. Every story mattered, every voice needed to be heard. When they finished, Jake felt a strange sense of resolve mixed with an undercurrent of dread. They were stepping into uncharted territory, and he couldn't shake the worry that loomed like a shadow. How would the Harringtons respond? That evening, while Jake was at home scanning social media for any new updates, he stumbled upon a video that made him stop cold. It featured a young woman tearfully recounting how the Harringtons had forced her family's South Bakery to close. "They threatened to sue us if we didn't sell," she cried, "we have nowhere else to turn." Jake's heart ached for her. This wasn't just business, it was people's lives at stake. This was why they were fighting. He picked up his phone, dialing Lisa. "We need to share her story," he said, urgency edging his voice. "It's so powerful. If we can amplify this, we can show everyone what the Harringtons are really doing." "Absolutely, but we have to be strategic, Jake," Lisa cautioned. "If we're not careful, the Harringtons will strike back harder." Jake grounded himself, recalling the resolve they'd felt just hours earlier. "We can't let fear control us. Together, we forge ahead." With renewed determination, they made a plan to invite more people to contribute their stories, building a coalition that nobody could ignore. And just as the conversation trailed off, the doorbell rang. Jake opened the door to find a messenger with a letter. It was addressed to him, official and imposing. Curiosity mixed with dread as he tore an envelope, revealing a legal document with a chilling tone. As he read the words, his pulse quickened. It was a cease and desist order, and it carried a threat they hadn't anticipated. His voice trembled as he whispered into the phone, "They're coming for us, Lisa. What do we do now?" The fight was far from over, but at what cost? The weight of the letter hung heavy in Jake's hands. Every word he read felt like a noose tightening around his resolve. He could almost hear the Harringtons' laughter echoing in his mind, their smug faces lighting up at the thought of silencing him. He could feel the tremors of uncertainty, a familiar foe creeping back in. "Jake, what did it say?" Lisa's voice was laced with urgency. "They've sent a cease and desist. Basically, they want us to stop what we're doing, or else." His voice was barely above a whisper. "Or else what?" She was already calculating the implications. "Jake, this is serious. They could go after the influencers, the stories, everything we've built." A chill ran down Jake's spine. "I know. But we can't back down now, can we?" "No. We push forward. This is our chance to show the world exactly who the Harringtons are," Lisa declared, her fierce spirit shining through, bolstering Jake's own wavering courage. "Right." He took a deep breath, thinking of the bakery owner's tear-stained face, of all the people he'd heard from in the last 24 hours. "We're telling their stories. We have to get them out there." They spent the next few hours crafting a response, a digital rallying cry to others similarly victims of Harrington tyranny. They wrote posts that spoke from the heart, challenging the narrative the Harringtons had built around invincibility through wealth. Jake typed furiously, reflecting on how it felt to be powerless against those who saw people as mere numbers. Isn't this what made America great? Standing up against the giants, defending what was right even when the odds were stacked high. They decided to launch their campaign early the next morning. As dawn broke, Jake felt a renewed sense of urgency. This was no longer just about keeping his shop open, it was about inspiring a movement. He checked his phone, refreshing social media feeds as if looking for a sign. That's when he saw a tweet from a prominent local journalist who had picked up the bakery story. "The community is fighting back against the Harringtons. Voices matter. Stories matter. Harringtons silenced." With excitement bubbling in his chest, Jake quickly drafted a response. "We stand together. If you've been affected, reach out to us. It's time to share our truth." Pressing send felt like a leap into the unknown, exhilarating and terrifying. Almost instantly, others began to join the conversation. Voices flooded in, stories of loss, struggle, and resilience intermingling with outrage directed at the Harringtons. Jake and Lisa exchanged glances, their resolve hardening. They knew the Harringtons would counterattack. They always did. But would fear allow them to fold? Just as Jake was about to respond to another message, his phone buzzed with an incoming call. It was a blocked number. An icy tingle foreshadowed something big. He hesitated but answered anyway. "Mr. Sutherland," a voice on the other end sneered. You think all this childish rebellion will end well for you? His heart raced, the color drained from his face. It was a thinly veiled threat, and he knew what it meant. I'll fight for what's right, no matter the cost, Jake responded, determined yet uncertain. Good luck. You'll need it, the voice replied coolly before hanging up. His mind raced. The Harringtons were ruthless. They weren't just coming for his business, they were coming for him, for Lisa, and anyone else standing alongside them. He turned to Lisa, his eyes wide. They're not going to let this go. We need to escalate. We have to get more stories out there, make what we're doing unavoidable. Absolutely, Lisa replied, her face set with determination. But we have to be smart. We need allies. People in the media, others fighting back. We need to share our plan. And just like that, the weight of the world transformed into a sense of purpose, igniting something fierce within him. But as they plotted the next move, unknown to them, the Harringtons were watching, already setting their frightening counteroffensive into motion. Jake's pulse quickened. How much were they willing to risk? How far would they go to ensure that their voices were heard above the din of the Harringtons' power? The battle lines had been drawn. But in the shadows, danger was lurking, and Jake had no idea how intense it would become. Jake's heart pounded in his chest as he and Lisa sat huddled over their laptops. The room, filled with the glow of their screens, felt like a fortress against the looming threat of the Harringtons. Every tweet, every shared story, was an act of defiance against a shadow they knew was growing larger by the minute. Look at this, Lisa said, her eyes sparkling with determination as she pointed to her screen. Local businesses are posting their own stories, too. We're not alone in this. The realization filled Jake with warmth. That's it. We need to amplify those voices. They have their own battles against the Harringtons. We can't just tell our story. It's time to share the collective fight. As they organized stories from various local businesses, the excitement felt contagious. Jake remembered the bakery owner whose family struggled to keep their doors open, the hair salon threatened by the Harringtons' redevelopment plan. Each tale sliced through Jake's skin like a fresh bruise, a reminder of the fight in front of them. Lisa had already drafted a new post. We need a hashtag that binds us all together. Something strong. She chewed her lip thoughtfully. How about Rise Against the Harringtons? Perfect, he confirmed, feeling the weight of responsibility latching onto his back. And we should ask for video clips, too. The more faces, the better. As they pushed the campaign live, their phones lit up with notifications. The community was responding not just with likes but with emotional comments. Jake could hardly believe how quickly their movement was gaining traction. Then it happened. A notification flashed in the corner of the screen. It was a live broadcast link from a local news station. The headline read, "Incredible CEO exposes humiliation of his mother by billionaire family, cancels $900 million deal." Jake's stomach churned. He realized the CEO in the story was a former rival of the Harringtons. According to the news anchor, he'd been a target of their ruthless attempts to squash any competition. He had halted major deals in solidarity with those voicing concerns about the Harrington empire. Should we watch? Lisa asked, her eyebrows raised in surprise and curiosity. Yes. Let us see how deep this goes, Jake said, his fingers trembling as he clicked on the link. The screen filled with the image of a man, looking both fierce and visibly shaken by his past. As he spoke about the pain his family endured, Jake felt a connection. This wasn't just about business, this was personal. It was about a community pushed past the edge, summoned together by their shared scars. If we don't stand up, they'll drown us all, the CEO continued, his voice wavering with gravity. I refuse to let my mother's humiliation serve as a stepping stone for their wealth. Tears blurred Jake's vision for a moment. He knew they shared this feeling of betrayal, a fight for dignity. Suddenly, Lisa pointed at her phone, where the Harringtons' response was trending. "Look! They're trying to bluster through this. They're calling him irresponsible and claiming he's being attacked for his unfounded allegations." "Of course," Jake said, dread pooling in his stomach. "They want to silence dissenting voices." The tension was palpable, and with every passing moment, Jake felt the danger tightening around him, like a vice. They would retaliate for this embarrassment. The Harringtons would not let this stand. Lisa's voice trembled slightly. "We can't stop now. We're igniting something huge. But we must prepare for their reaction." He nodded. The weight of their mission felt heavier than ever. "We need to meet tomorrow with everyone involved. Brainstorm a strategy to protect ourselves and amplify our voices even more." With that, a gust of adrenaline filled the room. They were on the edge of something, teetering between hope and risk, between victory and vulnerability, but as they gathered their ideas, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that a storm was brewing on the horizon. How far would the Harringtons go to protect their empire? Would they take things too far, in that charged moment? Jake felt something shift within him. He wasn't just fighting for a bakery or a business anymore, he was fighting for the soul of his community. As they turned off their screens and headed into the night, he wondered, what would tomorrow bring? The sun rose bright and hopeful over the city, casting shadows that felt lighter than they had in days. Jake stood at his window, watching the world wake, his heart racing with a mix of anxiety and determination. Today was a pivotal moment, not just for him, but for every small business, every voice that dared to stand up against the Harringtons. As Jake headed to the meeting place, he could see the energy buzzing in the usually quiet streets. Neighbors were gathering, a small army ready to fight for their shared values. When he walked into the community center, the room was filled with familiar faces, friends, family, supporters. Hope glimmered in their eyes, but behind it lay a tinge of apprehension. "Thank you for coming," Jake started, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "We're all here because we believe in something bigger than ourselves. It's time we show the Harringtons that their power doesn't intimidate us." The room erupted in applause. Jake could sense the collective pulse of determination, feeding his own courage. He glanced toward Lisa, who stood beside him, her confident expression matching the spirit of the crowd. "We've faced their threats, but today, we take action." Jake looked around. "Let us share our stories, make a wave that can't be ignored." They shared everything, bouquets of courage intertwined with fragility. Stories poured out like an open tap, the bakery forced to close its doors, the salon almost crushed under pressure, the families behind every business working late into the night. Jake felt a surge of pride, they were all together in this fight. After hours of strategizing, creating a giant board with names, ways to rally, and media opportunities, it was time to choose their next step. Jake stood at the head of the table. "Let us stage a community rally this weekend. We'll invite everyone to share their stories and highlight our resilience. We want the world to witness our unity. This is our biggest chance." The buzzing room filled with affirmations. "Let us make signs. Prepare speeches. Topics about standing against oppression." They were no longer just a city, they were a movement. As plans solidified around him, Jake felt the weight lift just a little. Their passion ignited a flame within him, a determination he didn't realize he had. Yet, the thought of the Harringtons loomed over his head like a storm cloud. The next day, Jake returned home, and as he flipped through the evening news, he braced himself. The screen lit up with a local journalist announcing a potential counter-protest organized by the Harringtons. "They're trying to intimidate you," the anchor stated with urgency. Jake felt his stomach lurch. Would they retaliate in public? Would they show? His phone buzzed, the notification from Lisa sending chills down his spine. They needed to be prepared. "Stay strong," Lisa texted. "No matter what they throw at us, we have each other." The rally day dawned bright and clear, an expanse of determined hopefuls gathering at the downtown square. Jake stood in front of a crowd that had swelled beyond his expectations, somewhere well over 1,000 people. A tapestry of faces filled the area, united by a mutual cause. He stepped forward, a drowning tide of emotion welling inside him. "Today, we rise," he shouted. The crowd exploded with cheers. The rhythm of their heartbeats seemed to sync with his. "They think they can silence us, but we have something that money can't buy: unity. Story after story, we are here to show we won't back down." As personal testimonies flowed from neighbors, each one resonated with raw emotion, from the sweet old woman discussing her bakery to the young father sharing fears of losing his shop. Joy and pain intertwined, painting a heartfelt picture of community. Then came the unexpected: the Harrington family had arrived. Hidden among the crowd, they came to observe, for intimidation, for retaliation, for power. Murmurs swept through the audience as Jake spotted them, standing back, glaring like ruthless hawks waiting to swoop, but there was a shift that could be felt in the air. Voices began rising again, solid and unyielding. "We stand with Jake," shouted someone from the crowd. "Our community. Our stories matter." In that moment, a flood of confidence surged through Jake. "Their threats only prove how afraid they are of us," he called out, drawing strength from every face surrounding him. "This is the heart of our battle. With every story shared, with every voice lifted, we grow stronger." The crowd erupted in applause, drowning out the Harrington's presence. Their fierce determination, once wavering under trepidation, now surged through Jake like fire. They weren't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for dignity, they were acknowledging their worth. After hours of rallying, Jake found himself feeling something profound. This was a steep battle, but they had ignited a beacon of hope that could pierce the darkest shadows. The Harringtons may have power and wealth, but they could never imprison the spirit of a community standing together. As the sun began to set, Jake looked around at the faces shining with pride and unity and realized it wasn't just about him anymore. It was about making a lasting change, a transformation beyond their dreams. The roar of their voices lingered in the air, a promise to themselves they would never back down, no matter what came next, and for the first time, he believed they just might win. This isn't just a story, this is your moment to act. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us share our narrative. Comment your reactions and feelings about this amazing transformation. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this. Don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans understand the power of unity and support.